Why acting unaffected isn't being heartless, let's start here. You've been told your whole life that being emotional is beautiful, that being sensitive is strength, that vulnerability is bravery, and it is. But let me ask you this. What happens when your softness becomes a target? When your openness becomes a wound, others keep pressing. When your emotions, your reactions, your truth are constantly used against you, at some point you realize you don't need to become hard, but you do need to become whole. There's a difference between being numb and being grounded, between being cold and being clear, between being distant and being deeply rooted in your own peace. Thought balloon, it's not about not caring, let's make this clear. Acting as if nothing affects you doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care so deeply about your peace that you've stopped handing your emotions to people who can't carry them. You've stopped reacting, stopped chasing, stopped spiraling every time something feels off. This version of you doesn't need to win the argument. She doesn't need to respond to every insult. She doesn't beg for understanding because she's found something deeper, unshakable inner strength. This isn't apathy, it's alignment. The power of responding, not reacting. Let's dive into what happens when you stop reacting to everything. Because most of us, especially women, have been taught to be emotionally available to everyone. Smile even when you're uncomfortable, stay quiet to avoid conflict, just let it go. Even if it cuts you, we become emotional responders. Ooh. But here's the hard truth. Reacting to everything keeps you emotionally poor. You give away your peace, your clarity, your focus, all in the name of being a nice, agreeable, or understood. Repeat button, but what does responding look like? Responding is conscious, it's intentional, it's rooted. It sounds like, let me think about it, I'll get back to you. No response at all, because silence is a response. Reacting is impulsive, it's driven by wounds. Responding is mature, it's driven by wisdom. Fire why reacting hurts you more than it helps every time you react. You center someone else's chaos over your clarity. You step out of self-trust and into self-doubt. You hand over your peace in exchange for short-term approval, and you start to wonder, why am I so drained? Even though I'm doing everything right. Because you're giving your emotional power to people, situations, and stories that are not worthy of your spirit. Person female, reclaiming the pause, the most powerful thing you can do isn't scream, it's pause. That pause is where your peace gets a moment to speak, your spirit has a second to breathe, your mind can sort through truth instead of trigger. The pause says, I choose me before I choose to respond. That is not weakness. That is inner leadership. Light bulb, practice this. Next time something pokes your old wounds, ask, is this mine to hold? Does this require my energy? How can I allow this moment to pass without losing myself in it? You'll notice something miraculous happens. You don't feel the need to react because you've outgrown the need to be understood by people who never saw you anyway. This is just the beginning of your transformation. You're not here to be unaffected because you're cold. You're here to become so centered, so whole, that the outside world doesn't get to shake what's sacred inside you. You don't react anymore. You respond with power, with peace, and with purpose, because you're building a version of you that's unshakable. Emotional sovereignty, you don't owe anyone an explanation. Being unbothered is a superpower. You don't owe anyone an explanation. Let's say this clearly. You do not owe anyone your emotional availability. You don't owe them your why. You don't owe them a softened version of your truth just to make them feel comfortable. How much of your life have you spent over-explaining just to avoid being misunderstood? You write long texts to justify your boundaries, stay in conversations long past your comfort, apologize for being distant when all you needed was rest. And what did it cost you? Your clarity, your peace, your presence. Brain the lie of over-explaining. Somewhere along the way, you learn this lie. If they understand me, they'll approve of me. They approve of me, I'll finally feel enough. But understanding doesn't always lead to peace. Sometimes the pursuit of being understood keeps you trapped in the energy of people who will never get you because they were never meant to. Collision your peace doesn't require permission. You don't need to explain why you cut off access, why you don't show up like you used to, why you need silence, why you needed distance. Your soul doesn't need a PR team. Your truth doesn't require applause, and your healing doesn't require permission. When someone says, "Why didn't you say anything?" you can say, "With peace, because it was no longer my job to carry what never belonged to me." Oh, light bulb, practice this. Notice when your explanation is really a way of asking for approval. Start saying less and feeling more if it costs your peace. Silence is sometimes the most powerful closure. The most grounded version of you will be quiet. Not because you're hiding, but because you finally return to your center. Being unbothered is a superpower. Let's break this down. Being unbothered, it doesn't mean you never feel pain. It doesn't mean you don't notice disrespect. It doesn't mean you float through life on autopilot. It means this: you've mastered the art of not attaching your worth to external chaos. You've stopped letting rejection define your value, ghosting define your beauty, conflict define your strength, other people's mood swings define your mood fire. Unbothered equals energetic mastery. When you're unbothered, you don't enter arguments that cost your peace. You don't chase closure from people who close the door. You don't spiral every time someone changes energy. You move differently. You breathe deeper. You stop proving and start preserving. Person in lotus position, the power in being unavailable. Start being unavailable too. Passive aggression, gaslighting, emotional baiting, one-sided conversations. People who only show up when it's convenient for them, not out of ego, but out of self-regulation. Because peace is not passive, it's a decision. It's saying, you can be loud, I'll stay grounded. You can accuse, I'll stay aligned. You can misunderstand me. I won't abandon myself to be understood. Speech balloon, repeat this. I don't chase closure. I create peace. I don't absorb energy. I protect mine. I don't shrink in discomfort. I rise in stillness. Being unbothered is not apathy, it's ownership. You no longer hand people the remote control to your emotions. Inner calm is a superpower. You're not losing emotion. You're gaining emotional freedom. You don't live for validation, you live from value. You're not ignoring life's weight. You're simply choosing not to carry what isn't yours anymore. This is what emotional power looks like. Quiet, steady, focused, rooted, radiant, ready. Unbothered isn't fake peace, it's real mastery. And you're mastering you. Letting go of emotional triggers, let's begin with this truth. Your triggers aren't flaws, they're invitations. Triggers aren't the problem, they're the map. They show you where your healing lives. They show you what still needs to be seen, heard, and released. But here's what most people do. They hide from the trigger. They blame the world for poking it. They stay stuck in patterns because it's just how they are. But you're not here to live in a state of reaction. You're here to rewrite the script. Collision triggers are unhealed stories. When someone says something and you snap or pull away or collapse into anxiety, that moment isn't about them. It's about the memory it touched, the fear it resurfaced, the version of you it woke back up. But here's the good news. You don't have to keep protecting that old wound. You can release it. You can meet the trigger with compassion and say, this no longer defines me. I choose to rise above it. Brain, how to let go, not just suppress. Letting go doesn't mean ignoring it. It means being present with it and then choosing again. Try this. Notice the trigger without judgment. Ask, what's the story I'm telling myself right now? Replace it with the truth. Even if this hurts, I am safe. I am whole. I am healing. Over time, your nervous system will rewire. You'll become calmer, quieter inside, more self-led, because you've stopped being owned by your pain. Speech balloon, repeat this. I am not my old reaction. I am not my past story. I am not broken. I am becoming. I am becoming. Letting go of emotional triggers isn't weakness, it's mastery. And you're mastering peace in a world that profits from your chaos. Protecting your energy with boundaries, let's get honest. Most people lose their power, not from failure, but from leaking their energy. You give and give. You listen, you explain, you overextend, you answer every text, reply to every request, say yes to everything, and then wonder, why am I so drained all the time? Because you haven't learned to protect your light. And if you don't protect your light, the world will dim it. Not out of cruelty, but out of habit. Locked boundaries are not barriers. They're filters. A boundary is not about blocking people. It's about filtering access to your soul. You don't need to build walls. You need to build doors and be the one who chooses when they open and close. Boundaries sound like, I'm not available for that energy. I don't do last minute anymore. But please speak to me with respect. I'm offline after 8 p.m. a no. Sparkles, how to protect your energy daily. Here are practices to make energetic protection part of your life. Scan your energy in the morning. Ask, oh, where am I leaking? Say no before resentment builds. Don't wait until you snap. Mute what drains you. That includes notifications, conversations, or even habits. Take space without apology. Disappear for peace, not punishment. And most importantly, know that your light is sacred. It's not for everyone. If someone's reaction to your boundary is anger, manipulation, or guilt, that was never respect. It was access disguised as love. Speech balloon, repeat this. I am allowed to rest without explanation. I am allowed to say no without guilt. I am allowed to choose my peace over their comfort. Boundaries are not selfish. They are a form of self-respect. And when you start protecting your energy, you don't just survive, you lead. Emotional freedom is your birthright, this part of your journey. It's not about becoming heartless. It's about becoming whole. It's not about isolating. It's about selectively connecting. It's not about escaping triggers. It's about healing them so deeply that they no longer own you. When you build boundaries rooted in self-trust, you don't become less available. You become more aligned. And when you're aligned, you become unstoppable. Growth looks like calm. Let's clear something up. Growth isn't always loud. It doesn't always post updates. It doesn't announce itself. Sometimes growth looks like saying less, sitting with the discomfort, walking away from the drama, feeling the trigger, and not reacting. True growth is often quiet because it's no longer looking for applause. It's looking for alignment. Person female, what growth really sounds like? I'll think about it. No, I don't have the capacity right now. I'm not going back. Why don't be back? Nah, need to respond to this. That's not indifference, that's integration. Because when you've done the work, you no longer need to convince, correct, or chase. You just breathe. And that breath, that's the space where peace lives. Lightbulb, practice this kind of growth. Sit still in moments you'd normally spiral. Speak only when your truth feels grounded. Let silence carry your boundaries. When words feel heavy, choose peace. Even if it means being misunderstood. When your nervous system is calm, your world shifts. Not because everything around you changed, but because you did. You're not cold, you're focused. Here's the truth many people don't understand. You're not cold. You're no longer available for chaos. You're not rude. You're just no longer making yourself small to keep others comfortable. You're not distant. You're focused on your healing, your peace, your future. And if that makes someone uncomfortable, let them sit in their discomfort. Because the version of you who used to chase, explain, over-accommodate, she's gone. And in her place is a woman who knows her value. Brain redefine what focus looks like. Being focused doesn't mean hustling. It means you're in alignment with what matters. You're not entertaining distractions, subscribing to drama, playing emotional ping pong with people who drain you. You're building, grounding, resting, expanding, and you don't need to defend that. Focus is a boundary, and it's one you no longer compromise. Speech balloons say this out loud. I'm not cold. No, I'm just not confused anymore. I'm not rude. I just don't fake peace. I'm not distant. I've just come home to myself. You're no longer explaining your evolution. You're living it unapologetically. Rise above the noise now. Take a deep breath. Because this is the moment you decide, I'm done letting everything affect me. You're not emotionless. You're emotionally intelligent. You're not unavailable. You're selective. You're not hiding. You're protecting your peace like your life depends on it, because it does. Fire rise above it all. Let them gossip. Let them project. Let them leave. Let them misunderstand you. Because you're no longer shrinking in rooms where your presence used to beg for space. You're walking in truth, in calm, in self-led power. No chaos required. Speak them into existence. I release the need to prove myself. I choose stillness over reaction. May protect my peace like it's sacred, because it is. I walk in quiet strength, not because I'm hiding, but because I'm home. You're not the same woman you used to be. You don't need to act unaffected, because you are. Not cold, not fake, not numb, but grounded, clear, unshakable. And this version of you, she doesn't flinch, she doesn't chase, she rises above the noise.